Hello learners, welcome back. In today's session, we'll explore 10 carefully selected AWS Cloud Practitioner questions. But let me tell you, these aren't just questions. They're a step-by-step roadmap to mastering the AWS Cloud Practitioner exam and building the kind of knowledge that cloud employers are looking for. Across these 10 questions, you'll dive into real exam concepts like Route 53 routing policies, AWS support plans, EC2 pricing models, compliance with AWS Artifact, IAM for access management, the Well-Architected Framework, and even the core business benefits of cloud computing. Each one is like a checkpoint in your journey, helping you understand, not just memorize. Think of it this way. Instead of a boring quiz, this is your mini learning journey. With each question, you'll uncover why AWS works the way it does, how these concepts appear in the exam, and more importantly, how they apply to real-world cloud jobs. By the end, you'll feel more confident for the AWS CLF-C02 certification, and you'll also be building the right mindset to solve actual cloud challenges in your career. And here's a bonus. You'll get a free PDF with all these questions and answers, plus a mock test link so you can keep practicing at your own pace. So stay tuned till the end, because this is not just about passing an exam. It's about building your cloud foundation for the future. 31. Which AWS Route 53 routing policy would you use to improve the performance for your customers by routing the requests to the AWS endpoint that provides the fastest experience? This question is asking about which Route 53 routing policy helps users get the fastest response time. Imagine you have servers in different AWS regions, for example, one in the US and one in Asia. If a customer from India tries to connect, which policy ensures they don't go all the way to the US server, but instead connect to the closer Asia server for better speed? Options A, latency routing policy. B, weighted routing policy. C, simple routing policy. D, failover routing policy. Think of it like choosing the fastest lane in traffic. If you're driving and there are multiple roads to your destination, you'd want the GPS to guide you through the one that takes the least time. Similarly, latency routing policy checks which AWS region can give the user the quickest response and routes them there. Other policies like weighted or failover serve different purposes, which we'll also see. The correct answer is latency routing policy explanation. Latency routing policy. Amazon Route 53 is a highly available and scalable cloud domain name system, DNS web service. It is designed to give developers and businesses an extremely reliable and cost-effective way to route end users to internet applications by translating names like https://dubexample.com into the numeric IP addresses like 192.0.2.1 that computers use to connect to each other. If your application is hosted in multiple AWS regions, you can use latency routing policy to improve the performance for your users by serving their requests from the AWS region that provides the lowest latency. To use latency-based routing, you create latency records for your resources in multiple AWS regions. When Route 53 receives a DNS query for your domain or subdomain, example.com or acme.example.com, it determines which AWS regions you've created latency records for, determines which region gives the user the lowest latency, and then selects a latency record for that region. Route 53 responds with the value from the selected record, such as the IP address for a web server. Think of latency as the delay time. The closer the server is to the user, the lower the delay. If a user in Tokyo connects to a server in Tokyo, their browsing will feel faster compared to connecting to a server in New York. Latency-based routing makes sure users always connect to the nearest, fastest server available. Now looks why others are not correct. Failover routing policy. This routing policy is used when you want to configure active-passive failover. Weighted routing policy. This routing policy is used to route traffic to multiple resources in proportions that you specify. Simple routing policy. With simple routing, you typically route traffic to a single resource, for example, to a web server for your website. Question 32. A startup is looking for 24/7 phone-based technical support for his AWS account. Which of the following is the most cost-effective AWS support plan for this use case? This question is really asking, which AWS support plan gives 24/7 phone support without being overly expensive? Remember, AWS offers different levels of support depending on whether you are experimenting, running production workloads, or managing large enterprise systems. Options A, basic, B, developer, C, enterprise, D, business. Think of AWS support plans like different insurance packages. Basic, no extra coverage, just the essentials. Developer equals some guidance, but only during business hours. Business equals 24/7 phone, email, and chat, suitable for production workloads. Enterprise equals all the above plus a dedicated account manager, but at a much higher cost. So the key here is cost-effective plus 24/7 phone support. The correct option is Business Explanation. AWS offers 3 different support plans to cater to each of its customers: Developer, Business, and Enterprise support plans. A basic support plan is included for all AWS customers. Business. AWS recommends business support if you have production workloads on AWS and want 24/7 phone, email, and chat access to technical support and architectural guidance in the context of your specific use cases. Enterprise support plan also provides 24/7 phone, email, and chat access to technical support. However, it's much costlier than business support plan. Developer plan does not provide 24/7 phone-based technical support. Therefore, business support plan is the correct option for the given use case. Think of a startup running an app that might have issues at 2 a.m. With the business plan, they can call AWS anytime, get real support, and not worry about being stuck until morning. The enterprise plan also gives this, but it's like buying a luxury car when all you need is a reliable sedan. Too costly for the requirement. Incorrect options. Basic. The basic plan only provides access to customer service, documentation, white papers, and forums. It also includes limited trusted advisor checks and the AWS Personal Health Dashboard. No 24/7 phone support. Developer. Best if you're testing or doing early development. You only get email-based support during business hours, not 24/7. Enterprise provides 24/7 support plus a technical account manager and concierge-like service, but it's far more expensive than business, so not cost-effective for a startup. Question 33, multi-AZ availability zone deployment, is an example of which of the following? This question is checking if you know what multi-AZ deployment in AWS means. When you deploy across multiple availability zones, your system continues to work even if one zone fails. So, think about this. Does it mean scaling, efficiency, or availability? Options A, vertical scaling, B, performance efficiency, C, high availability, D, horizontal scaling. Imagine you run an online store. If your application is only in one data center, one AZ, and that center goes down, your website will be unavailable. But if you deploy the same application in multiple AZs, even if one AZ fails, the other keeps serving traffic. That's high availability. Your system remains up and running despite failures. The correct option is high availability explanation. High availability. A system that is available is capable of delivering the designed functionality at a given point in time. Highly available systems are those that can withstand some measure of degradation while still remaining available. On AWS Cloud, you can run instances for an application across multi-AZ to achieve high availability. Think of it like having 2 restaurants in different parts of town. If one closes due to power issues, the other is still serving customers. That way, customers don't go hungry. In AWS, multi-AZ ensures that if one data center has a failure, the workload continues from another. Incorrect options. Horizontal scaling. A horizontally scalable system increases capacity by adding more computers, instances. Example, auto-scaling group in AWS. Vertical scaling. Adding more resources, CPU, RAM to a single machine. Example, resizing an EC2 instance from T-top micro to M5.large. Performance efficiency, using resources efficiently to meet demand and scale with new technologies. This is about optimization, not redundancy. Question 34. Which AWS service can be used to review the compliance and governance-related documents on AWS? This question is asking if you need official compliance reports or agreements from AWS, like SOC reports, PCI certifications, or legal documents. Which AWS service gives you access to those documents? Options A, Secrets Manager, B, Trusted Advisor, C, Artifact, D, Service Catalog. Think of it this way. If your company's auditor says, show me AWS's PCI compliance certificate, you won't check Trusted Advisor or Secrets Manager. Instead, you'd log into AWS Artifact, which is like AWS's digital library of compliance paperwork, always available on demand. The correct option is Artifact X. AWS Artifact is your central resource for compliance-related information on AWS Cloud. It provides on-demand access to AWS's security and compliance reports and select online agreements. Reports available in AWS Artifact include the Service Organization Control, SOC reports, Payment Card Industry, PCI reports, and certifications from accreditation bodies across geographies. Agreements available in AWS Artifact also include the Business Associate Addendum, BAA, and the Non-Disclosure Agreement, NDA. You can think of AWS Artifact as a compliance vault. Whenever your business needs proof of AWS's security or regulatory compliance, you can download the required reports or agreements instantly. No need to contact support. Incorrect options. Trusted Advisor provides best practice recommendations for cost, security, performance, and fault tolerance. It does not give compliance reports. Service Catalog lets organizations manage approved IT service catalogs, VMs, apps, stacks, not for compliance documentation. Secrets Manager helps manage API keys, passwords, and other sensitive data securely. It's for secrets, not compliance reports. Question 35. Which AWS EC2 pricing model is the most cost-effective and flexible, with no requirement for a long-term resource commitment or upfront payment, but still guarantees that instance would not be interrupted? This question is asking, which EC2 pricing model gives flexibility, no commitment, no upfront cost, is affordable, and ensures your instance won't be interrupted? Basically, AWS wants to know which option balances flexibility plus stability. Options A, on-demand instances, B, reserved instances, C, dedicated hosts, D, spot instances. Imagine you're running a new project for a few days and you don't want to commit for a year, and you also can't afford sudden interruptions. Spot instances are cheap but can vanish anytime. Reserved instances tie you up for 1 to 3 years, and dedicated hosts are expensive. The only option left that gives you pay-as-you-go flexibility and no interruptions is on-demand. The correct option is on-demand instances. On-demand instances. An on-demand instance is an instance that you use on demand. You have full control over its life cycle. You decide when to launch, stop, hibernate, start, reboot, or terminate it. There is no long-term commitment required when you purchase on-demand instances. There is no upfront payment, and you pay only for the seconds that your on-demand instances are running. The price per second for running an on-demand instance is fixed. On-demand instances cannot be interrupted. Think of on-demand like paying for electricity at home. You pay only for what you use, and nobody cuts it off randomly. It's more expensive than reserved or spot in the long run, but it's the safest option when you need guaranteed stability with no commitments. Incorrect options. Reserved instances require a 1-year or 3-year commitment, offering discounts but not flexible for short-term or unpredictable needs. Spot instances, very cheap but can be terminated anytime if AWS needs capacity, not suitable for critical workloads. Dedicated hosts, physical servers dedicated just for you, usually for licensing or compliance needs, but not cost-efficient for general workloads. Key point, on-demand, pay-as-you-go, flexible, no commitment, and no interruptions. Best for new, unpredictable, or short-term workloads. Question 36. The AWS Well-Architected Framework helps organizations build robust cloud solutions based on AWS recommended best practices. Which of the following are part of the 5 pillars mandated in the Well-Architected Framework? Select 2. This question is checking if you know the 5 official pillars of the AWS Well-Architected Framework. Think of these pillars as the guiding principles AWS recommends when designing cloud systems. You need to pick 2 correct ones from the list provided. Options: A, privacy, B, security, C, configuration management, D, performance efficiency, E, scalability. Imagine you're building a house. You need strong pillars to make sure it stands tall and safe. Similarly, in cloud architecture, AWS has defined 5 main pillars that every system should be built upon. For example, security is like having strong locks and alarm systems for your house. Performance efficiency is like making sure your house has proper electricity and water flow even when more people move in. Other things like privacy, configuration management, or scalability are important in technology, but they are not part of the core 5 pillars. The correct option is security and performance efficiency. The AWS Well-Architected Framework helps you understand the pros and cons of decisions you make while building systems on AWS. By using the framework, you will learn architectural best practices for designing and operating reliable, secure, efficient, and cost-effective systems in the cloud. It provides a way for you to consistently measure your architectures against best practices and identify areas for improvement. The AWS Well-Architected Framework is based on 5 pillars: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. Security, the ability to protect information, systems, and assets while delivering business value through risk assessments and mitigation strategies. Performance efficiency, the ability to use computing resources efficiently to meet system requirements and to maintain efficiency as demand changes and technologies evolve. Incorrect options. Configuration management. This is not part of the 5 pillars of the AWS Well-Architected Framework. Privacy. This is not part of the 5 pillars of the AWS Well-Architected Framework. Scalability. This is not part of the 5 pillars of the AWS Well-Architected Framework. Question 37. Which of the following AWS services manages account privileges? This question is asking, which AWS service is responsible for controlling who can do what in your AWS account? Think of account privileges as permissions that decide whether a person or system can access, modify, or manage resources. Options: A. AWS CloudTrail. B. AWS Web Application Firewall, WAF. C. AWS Secrets Manager. D. AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. Imagine a company office. IAM is like the security guard with a list of who can enter which rooms. CloudTrail is like the CCTV camera, recording what everyone is doing. WAF is like a security scanner at the door, stopping malicious outsiders from breaking in. Secrets Manager is like a locker where passwords and keys are safely stored. So if the question is specifically about managing privileges, who gets access to what, the correct choice must be IAM. The correct option is AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. In AWS, privilege management is primarily supported by the AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM service, which allows you to control user and programmatic access to AWS services and resources. You should apply granular policies, which assign permissions to a user, group, role, or resource. You also can require strong password practices, such as complexity level, avoiding reuse, and enforcing multi-factor authentication, MFA. You can use federation with your existing directory service. For workloads that require systems to have access to AWS, IAM enables secure access through roles, instance profiles, identity federation, and temporary credentials. Incorrect options. AWS CloudTrail. AWS CloudTrail is a service that enables governance, compliance, operational auditing, and risk auditing of your AWS account. With CloudTrail, you can log, continuously monitor, and retain account activity related to actions across your AWS infrastructure. CloudTrail provides an event history of your AWS account activity, including actions taken through the AWS management. CloudTrail cannot be used to manage account privileges. AWS Web Application Firewall, WAF. AWS WAF is a web application firewall that helps protect your web applications or APIs against common web exploits that may affect availability, compromise security, or consume excessive resources. It is not an access management system. CloudTrail cannot be used to manage account privileges. AWS Secrets Manager. AWS Secrets Manager helps you protect secrets needed to access your applications, services, and IT resources. The service enables you to easily rotate, manage, and retrieve database credentials, API keys, and other secrets throughout their lifecycle. You cannot use Secrets Manager for creating and using your own keys for encryption on AWS services. Question 38. Which of the following AWS support plans provides access to infrastructure event management for an additional fee? This question is testing your knowledge of AWS support plans. Specifically, it asks, which plan gives you infrastructure event management, but not as a free benefit? Instead, only if you pay extra? Options: A. Developer, B. Enterprise, C. Business, Basic. Think of AWS support plans like membership tiers at a club. Basic, free entry, but very limited perks, docs, forums, and health dashboard. Developer, a starter plan, great for testing, but only email support during business hours. Business, designed for production workloads with 24/7 support and extra options like infrastructure event management, but at an additional fee. Enterprise, VIP level, where IEM is already included as part of the package, along with a technical account manager. So, the answer must be the plan where IEM is available, but not bundled for free. That's the business plan. The correct option is Business. AWS recommends business support if you have production workloads on AWS and want 24/7 phone, email, and chat access to technical support and architectural guidance in the context of your specific use cases. You get full access to AWS Trusted Advisor best practice checks. Also, you get access to infrastructure event management for an additional fee. Incorrect options. Developer. AWS recommends developer support if you are testing or doing early development on AWS and want the ability to get email-based technical support during business hours, as well as general architectural guidance as you build and test. You do not get access to infrastructure event management with this plan. Basic. The basic plan only provides access to the following: customer service and communities, 24/7 access to customer service, documentation, white papers, and support forums. AWS Trusted Advisor, access to the 7 core Trusted Advisor checks and guidance to provision your resources following best practices to increase performance and improve security. AWS Personal Health Dashboard, a personalized view of the health of AWS services and alerts when your resources are impacted. You do not get access to infrastructure event management with this plan. Enterprise. AWS Enterprise Support provides customers with concierge-like service, where the main focus is helping the customer achieve their outcomes and find success in the cloud. With Enterprise Support, you get 24/7 technical support from high-quality engineers, tools, and technology to automatically manage the health of your environment. Consultative architectural guidance delivered in the context of your applications and use cases, and a designated technical account manager TAM to coordinate access to proactive/preventative programs and AWS subject matter experts. Access to infrastructure event management is included in the plan. Question 39. A startup wants to provision an EC2 instance for the lowest possible cost for a long-term duration, but needs to make sure that the instance would never be interrupted. As a cloud practitioner, which of the following options would you recommend? Understanding the question. This question is asking, which EC2 purchasing option is the best choice if a company wants the lowest long-term cost and a guarantee that the instance will never be interrupted? So think carefully about 2 conditions. 1, it must be low cost for long-term use. 2, it must be reliable without interruption. Options: A, reserved instance. B, dedicated host. C, spot instance. D, on-demand instance. Let's compare this with renting a car. On demand, like paying for a taxi whenever you need it. Flexible, but expensive over time. Spot, like renting leftover cars at huge discounts, but the rental company can take them back anytime. Risky if you need stability. Reserved instance, like signing a long-term lease with a car rental company. You pay less because you commit for 1 or 3 years, and you always have the car when you need it. Dedicated host, like buying your own private garage and cars. It's exclusive, but far more expensive than needed for a startup. Clearly, the startup's best fit is reserved instance. The correct option is reserved instance. Reserved instances provide you with significant savings, up to 75% on your Amazon EC2 costs compared to on-demand instance pricing. Reserved instances are not physical instances, but rather a billing discount applied to the use of on-demand instances in your account. You can purchase a reserved instance for a 1-year or 3-year commitment, with the 3-year commitment offering a bigger discount. Reserved instances cannot be interrupted, so this is the correct option. Incorrect options. On-demand instance. An on-demand instance is an instance that you use on demand. You have full control over its lifecycle. You decide when to launch, stop, hibernate, start, reboot, or terminate it. There is no long-term commitment required when you purchase on-demand instances. There is no upfront payment, and you pay only for the seconds that your on-demand instances are running. The price per second for running an on-demand instance is fixed. On-demand instances cannot be interrupted. However, on-demand instances are not as cost-effective as reserved instances, so this option is not correct. Spot instance. A spot instance is an unused EC2 instance that is available for less than the on-demand price. Because spot instances enable you to request unused EC2 instances at steep discounts, up to 90%, you can lower your Amazon EC2 costs significantly. Spot instances are well suited for data analysis, batch jobs, background processing, and optional tasks. These can be terminated at short notice, so these are not suitable for critical workloads that need to run at a specific point in time. So this option is not correct for the given use case. Dedicated host. Amazon EC2 dedicated hosts allow you to use your eligible software licenses from vendors such as Microsoft and Oracle on Amazon EC2, so that you get the flexibility and cost effectiveness of using your licenses, but with the resiliency, simplicity, and elasticity of AWS. An Amazon EC2 dedicated host is a physical server fully dedicated for your use, so you can help address corporate compliance requirement. They're not cost efficient compared to on-demand instances. So this option is not correct. Question 40. Which of the following are the advantages of cloud computing? Select 3. Understanding the question. This question is checking if you know the key business and technical benefits of cloud computing. Instead of thinking like an engineer, think like a business leader. Why would a company move to the cloud in the first place? You need to pick 3 correct advantages out of the options. Options. A. Trade capital expense for variable expense. B. Trade variable expense for capital expense. C. Allocate a few months of planning for your infrastructure capacity needs. D. Go global in minutes and deploy applications in multiple regions around the world with just a few clicks. E. Spend money on building and maintaining data centers. F. Benefit from massive economies of scale. Think about cloud like using Netflix versus buying DVDs. Instead of spending a huge amount upfront, capital expense, to buy DVDs or servers, you pay a small monthly fee, variable expense. This is a major advantage. Cloud also lets you go global instantly. Imagine uploading a video to YouTube. Suddenly, anyone worldwide can watch it within seconds. Cloud computing works the same way for applications. And finally, with cloud providers serving millions of customers, they achieve massive economies of scale, meaning cheaper prices for you compared to building your own data center. The wrong options represent the old, traditional IT world: big upfront investments, slow planning cycles, and maintaining expensive infrastructure. The correct option is trade capital expense for variable expense. Go global in minutes and deploy applications in multiple regions around the world with just a few clicks. Benefit from massive economies of scale. Please check out the following 6 advantages of cloud computing. You would certainly be asked questions on the advantages of cloud computing compared to a traditional on-premises setup. Incorrect options. Spend money on building and maintaining data centers. With cloud computing, you can focus on projects that differentiate your business, not the infrastructure. You don't need to spend money on building and maintaining data centers, as the cloud provider takes care of that. Allocate a few months of planning for your infrastructure capacity needs. With cloud computing, you don't need to guess on your infrastructure capacity needs. You can access as much or as little capacity as you need and scale up and down as required with only a few minutes' notice. There is no need to allocate a few months of infrastructure planning. Trade variable expense for capital expense. With cloud computing, you actually trade capital expense for variable expense.